The ultimatum that changed everything. Jonathan Pierce stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office. Watching the sun dip below the Manhattan skyline, the city sprawled beneath him like a kingdom he had built brick by brick. At 45 years old, he controlled the Pierce Development Corporation, a real estate empire worth $3 billion. Hotels, shopping centers, luxury apartments across 5 states all bore his family name. Yet tonight, none of it mattered. His phone buzzed with another text from his grandmother. The words cut through him like ice. 1 year, Jonathan. Find a wife. Have a child. Or everything goes to your cousins Bradley and Nathan on your 46th birthday. Jonathan loosened his silk tie and collapsed into his leather chair. His cousins were spoiled trust fund babies who had never worked a real day in their lives. They spent their inheritance on sports cars, yachts, and endless parties in the Hamptons and Miami. The thought of them controlling his life's work made his stomach turn. His assistant Harold knocked softly before entering. "Sir, it's nearly midnight. Do you need anything before I leave?" "No, Harold. Go home to your wife and kids." Jonathan waved him away, tired lie. Harold hesitated at the door. "Sir, if you don't mind me saying, you look troubled. Is there anything I can help with?" Jonathan almost laughed. How could Harold help with this? He needed a miracle, not an assistant. "Thanks, but this is something I need to figure out myself." After Harold left, Jonathan heard the familiar hum of the vacuum cleaner in the hallway. The night cleaning crew had arrived. He had barely noticed them before. These invisible workers who kept his building spotless while everyone else slept. An unexpected encounter. Jonathan walked down the hallway, his footsteps echoing on the marble floor. The vacuuming stopped suddenly, followed by a woman's voice speaking quietly in Spanish. He paused, listening. "Yes, Mama. I finished the 23rd floor. I have 5 more to go. I know Emma needs new school shoes. I'm working as fast as I can, but I have to do the job right or they'll fire me." Jonathan peered around the corner. A young woman sat on the reception desk chair, holding an old phone to her ear. Even in the dim emergency lighting, he could see she was beautiful. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her face showed exhaustion, but also fierce determination. "Tell Emma I'll be home before she wakes up," the woman continued. "Give her a kiss for me, and tell her Mommy is working hard so we can get her those shoes and maybe even that bicycle for her birthday." Something stirred in Jonathan's chest. This woman didn't know he was listening. She had no idea who he was. Her words held no pretense, no calculation. Just raw honesty and a mother's love for her child. He quietly returned to his office. But for the first time in weeks, an idea began forming in his mind. An idea so unusual it might actually work. The night that changed. 2 Lives Rosa Martinez finished mopping the 28th floor at 2 in the morning. Her arms ached, and her feet burned in the cheap shoes she had bought at the discount store. But she only had 2 floors left, and this week's paycheck would finally be enough to buy Emma those school shoes and maybe a new backpack. She pushed her cleaning cart toward the service elevator, ready to tackle floor 29. The building was silent at this hour, lit only by emergency lights and the glow of the city through massive windows. "Excuse me," a deep male voice said behind her. Rosa jumped, her heart racing. She turned slowly to find a tall man in an expensive suit standing in the hallway. He had dark hair streaked with silver at the temples and intense eyes that seemed to see right through her. "Sir, I'm so sorry," Rosa stammered, lowering her gaze. "I didn't know anyone was still working. I can come back later to clean this area." "No, it's fine. Actually, I wanted to talk to you." Rosa's heart sank. Had she done something wrong? Was she getting fired? "Is there a problem, sir?" "Not at all. My name is Jonathan Pierce." Rosa's eyes widened. Everyone in the building knew that name. He owned everything. The building, the company, probably half the skyscrapers visible from these windows. "Mr. Pierce," she whispered, feeling her legs weaken. "If I did something wrong, please, I need this job." "My daughter, you haven't done anything wrong," Jonathan interrupted gently. "In fact, I've been watching your work for several weeks. You're very dedicated." Rosa blinked in confusion. The billionaire Jonathan Pierce had been watching her clean offices? A proposal beyond imagination. I want to make you a proposal, Jonathan said, moving closer to the window. A proposal that could change your life and your daughter's life forever. Rosa's heart pounded. I don't understand, sir. I need a wife, Miss Martinez. It's Rosa, she said automatically. But, sir, I think you're confused. I'm just the cleaning lady. Jonathan turned to face her. Exactly. Every woman in my social circle has her own agenda, her own plans. But you're different. I've heard how you talk about your daughter. I've seen how hard you work. You understand responsibility and sacrifice. Rosa felt like the world was spinning. Mr. Pierce, this is crazy. Baby, Jonathan agreed, but it's also real. I'm facing a family situation. Legal complications. If I don't marry and have an heir within the next year, I lose control of my company to cousins who will destroy everything I've built. Rosa stared at him. Why me? There must be hundreds of women who would marry you. Jonathan stepped closer. Because when you talk about your daughter, I see the same love my mother had before she died. Because you work until 3 a.m. without complaining to give that little girl a better life. Because you're the first person in years who doesn't see me as a walking bank account. I need time to think, Rosa said, her voice shaking. Of course. Jonathan pulled a business card from his pocket. This is my personal number. Think about it, but please don't take too long. Time isn't on my side. Rosa took the card with trembling hands. And if I say no? Jonathan smiled for the first time, and Rosa was surprised at how it transformed his face. Then you'll still be the best night cleaning employee we've ever had. And this conversation never happened. The weight of decision as Jonathan walked back to the executive elevator. Rosa stood frozen in the hallway, holding the card like it was made of gold. In her mind, she heard Emma's voice from that morning. Mommy, when can we live in a house with a yard like the ones on TV? She looked at the business card again. Jonathan Pierce, Chief Executive Officer. Below his name was a personal phone number that probably very few people had. $5 million, he had mentioned. Plus education for Emma at the best private schools. Medical care. A life of comfort and security. It was more money than Rosa had seen in her entire life. With that amount, Emma could go to college. They could have their own home. She would never have to worry about making rent or buying shoes again. But it also meant marrying a stranger. Having his child, the idea terrified her and, strangely, intrigued her in a way she didn't want to admit. Rosa pushed her cleaning cart to the service elevator. But her mind was racing. The card felt heavy in her pocket, as if it contained not just a phone number, but the weight of a life-changing decision, as she rode the elevator down to the next floor. Rosa whispered a prayer. God, please show me the right path. Help me know if this is madness, or if this is the answer I've been looking for. The elevator doors opened, and Rosa stepped out to continue her work. But everything had changed. The hallway looked the same, the cleaning supplies smelled the same, but Rosa Martinez was no longer just a cleaning lady working to survive. She was a woman standing at a crossroads, holding a decision that would alter the course of 3 lives forever. Somewhere in the building above her, Jonathan Pierce sat in his office, wondering if he had just made the most brilliant decision of his life or the biggest mistake. Either way, there was no turning back now. The proposal was made. The cards were on the table. Now all he could do was wait and hope that the remarkable woman with the mop and bucket would see past the strangeness of his offer to the genuine need beneath it. A mother's courage. Rosa arrived at her small apartment in Queens at 4:30 in the morning. Her hands still trembled as she unlocked the door, trying not to wake Emma and her mother, who watched the little girl while Rosa worked nights. The apartment was tiny but clean. Emma's drawings covered the walls, and a few family photos sat on the bookshelf. Rosa's mother had left dinner on the table, but Rosa had no appetite. She sat on the worn couch and pulled out Jonathan's business card again. The paper felt expensive, heavy. Gold letters pressed into cream-colored cardstock. It represented a world so far from her own that it might as well have been on another planet. Mia, you're home early, her mother whispered, emerging from the bedroom. Carmen Martinez was 60 years old, with gray hair and warm eyes that had seen both joy and hardship. "Mama, something happened tonight." Rosa's voice cracked. "Something impossible." Carmen sat beside her daughter. "Tell me everything," Rosa explained. "The encounter with Jonathan Pierce, the proposal, the offer of $5 million. Carmen listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from shock to concern to deep thought. "This man," Carmen said slowly. "Is he kind? Did he look at you with respect?" Rosa thought back to Jonathan's eyes, how they had studied her face with genuine interest rather than judgment. "Yes, Mama. He seemed lonely more than anything else." "And you would have his child?" The question hung in the air. Rosa had avoided thinking too deeply about that part. "That's the agreement. He needs an heir to keep his company from his wasteful cousins." Carmen took her daughter's hands. "Rosa, I raised you to be practical, but also to trust your heart. This is not a fairy tale, but it could be a blessing for Emma. What does your gut tell you?" Rosa closed her eyes. "It tells me I'm scared, but also that this might be the only chance Emma will ever have for a real future." "Then you already know your answer." The call that changed everything at 8 in the morning. After taking Emma to school, Rosa dialed the number on the card. Her heart hammered so hard she could barely breathe. "Jonathan Pierce speaking." "Mr. Pierce, this is Rosa Martinez." There was a pause, then his voice came through warmer, surprised. "Rosa, you've made a decision. I have conditions first. I'm listening." Rosa gripped the phone tighter. "My daughter needs to know the truth in a way she can understand. I won't build our life on complete lies." "Agreed." "I want a lawyer to review everything. Someone independent who you'll pay for, of course. If we're doing this, I want you to know me. Not as the cleaning lady, but as the woman who might become the mother of your child." Jonathan's voice softened. "I'd like that very much. Can you meet me for lunch today? There's a quiet cafe in Brooklyn where we can talk." Rosa looked at her reflection in the hallway mirror. She saw a tired young woman in old clothes, but also someone brave enough to take a chance. "Yes, I can meet you." Getting to know each other, the cafe was small and cozy, filled with the smell of fresh bread and coffee. Jonathan was already there when Rosa arrived, dressed more casually in jeans and a button-down shirt. He stood when she approached. "Thank you for coming," he said, pulling out her chair. Rosa sat, feeling out of place but determined. "You said you wanted to know me. What do you want to know?" Jonathan smiled. "Everything. Start with the basics. Where are you from? What are your dreams?" Rosa took a sip of the coffee he had ordered for her. "I was born in Queens. My father died when I was 12. My mother worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat. I went to high school, got good grades, dreamed of going to college for business management. What happened? I met Emma's father, Carlos. He promised me the world, said we'd build a life together. When I got pregnant, he disappeared. Haven't seen him since Emma was born." "Donna." Jonathan's jaw tightened. "I'm sorry. That must have been devastating. But Emma's the best thing that ever happened to me. Every sacrifice is worth it when I see her smile." They talked for 2 hours. Rosa learned that Jonathan's father had also abandoned the family when Jonathan was young. His mother had worked herself to exhaustion, cleaning offices at night and working as a secretary during the day. "That's why you noticed me," Rosa realized. "I reminded you of your mother," as Jonathan admitted. "She died when I was 22, right before I started my first business. Everything I built was to honor her sacrifice." Rosa saw past the expensive clothes and powerful reputation. Jonathan Pierce was just a man trying to protect his mother's legacy. As lonely as she was, meeting Emma 3 days later, Rosa waited nervously outside Emma's school. Jonathan's black car pulled up at exactly 2:30. He stepped out wearing khakis and a polo shirt, trying to look approachable. "Ready?" he asked Rosa. "Nervous," she admitted. When Emma came running out of school, backpack bouncing, she froze when she saw the fancy car. Her eyes went wide. "Mommy, whose car is that?" "Emma, sweetheart. This is my friend Jonathan. He wanted to meet you." Emma studied Jonathan with the direct gaze only children possess. "That's your car? It's shiny." Jonathan crouched to her level. "It is pretty shiny. Would you like to see inside?" Emma looked at her mother, who nodded. The little girl approached carefully, then gasped when Jonathan opened the door. "Mommy, it has a TV screen." "Want to go for a ride?" Jonathan offered. "Can we, Mommy, please?" As they drove through the city, Emma chattered nonstop. She told Jonathan about her teacher, Mrs. Johnson, about her best friend Lucia, about how she wanted to be a veterinarian when she grew up. "That's a wonderful dream," Jonathan said. "Do you like animals?" "I love them. But we can't have pets in our apartment. Someday I want a dog and maybe a cat and some fish." Jonathan glanced at Rosa in the rearview mirror. "Someday soon, you might have all of those things." They stopped for ice cream at a small shop Emma loved. While she ate her strawberry cone, she asked Jonathan directly, "Are you rich?" Rosa gasped. "It's okay," Jonathan laughed. "Yes, I am." "Is that important?" Emma thought about it seriously. "My friend Lucia's dad is rich. He never has time to play with her. Are you too busy to play?" The question caught Jonathan off guard. "I make time for important things. And getting to know you is very important," Emma smiled, ice cream on her chin. "Okay, then I like you." A new home, a new life. 2 weeks after signing the legal contracts reviewed by an independent attorney, Rosa and Emma moved into Jonathan's mansion in Connecticut. The house was enormous, with white columns, manicured gardens, and a swimming pool that made Emma squeal with delight. Carmen came too at Jonathan's insistence. "Your mother is part of the package," he had said. "Family is family." The first night was overwhelming. Emma ran from room to room, amazed by everything. "Mommy, this bathroom is bigger than our whole apartment." Rosa stood in the master bedroom Jonathan had given her, feeling lost. The closet alone was the size of their old living room. Through the window, she could see the pool glowing blue in the evening light. A knock on the door made her turn. Jonathan stood in the doorway. "I know this is a lot to take in. Jonathan, I feel like I'm playing dress-up in someone else's life." He walked over to the window, standing beside her. "This is your life now."
Our life.
"You don't have to pretend to be someone you're not. Your family, your friends, they're going to know I don't belong here." Jonathan turned to face her. "Rosa, you belong here because I want you here. Because Emma deserves this. Anyone who can't accept that doesn't matter." Learning to live together the next few months were an adjustment for everyone. Rosa enrolled in online business courses with private tutors Jonathan hired. Emma started at an exclusive private school where she thrived despite being nervous at first. Carmen took over the garden, planting vegetables and flowers that reminded her of her childhood in Mexico. Jonathan proved to be surprisingly good with Emma. He helped with homework, attended her school plays, and learned to braid her hair when Rosa was busy studying. Rosa would find them in the game room, playing board games and laughing. One evening, Rosa found Jonathan reading bedtime stories to Emma. She stood in the doorway watching them. Emma was curled against his side, her eyes drooping as Jonathan read about a princess and a dragon. "Is the princess going to marry the prince?" Emma asked sleepily. "Maybe," Jonathan said. "But first, she has to decide if he's the right prince for her." "How does she know?" "She knows by how he treats her when nobody's watching, by whether he keeps his promises, by whether he makes her feel safe." Emma yawned. "Like you make me and Mommy feel safe?" Jonathan's voice caught. "I try to, sweetheart." After Emma fell asleep, Jonathan found Rosa in the kitchen making tea. "She's amazing," he said. "You've raised an incredible little girl. She adores you," Rosa replied. "I never expected that. I never expected to adore her back." Jonathan poured himself tea and sat at the kitchen island. "Rosa, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Are you happy here? Really happy, not just comfortable?" Rosa considered the question carefully. "I'm grateful. I'm amazed. But happy? I'm still figuring out what that means in this new life." "Fair enough," Jonathan said. "For what it's worth, I'm happier than I've been in years. This house feels like a home now, not just a building." Their eyes met across the kitchen, and something electric passed between them. The air grew thick with unspoken feelings. Rosa looked away first, her heart racing. "I should get to bed," she said quickly. Early class tomorrow. Rosa. Wait. She paused at the doorway. Thank you, Jonathan said softly, for giving us this chance. For bringing life into this empty house. For being you. Rosa nodded, not trusting herself to speak, and hurried to her room. As she lay in bed that night, she realized the truth she had been avoiding. This arrangement was supposed to be business, a contract with clear boundaries. But somewhere between bedtime stories and kitchen conversations, those lines had started to blur. And that terrified her more than anything. The grandmother's summons 6 months into the marriage. Rosa woke to find an elegant cream envelope on the breakfast table. The Pierce family crest was embossed in gold at the top. What's this? She asked Jonathan, who was making pancakes for Emma. His expression tightened. My grandmother wants to meet you. Officially, she's hosting a gala at her estate next Saturday. The entire family will be there. Rosa's stomach dropped. The entire family? Including your cousins? Bradley and Nathan will definitely be there, along with their wives, my aunts and uncles. It's probably 50 other relatives and business associates. Jonathan flipped a pancake with more force than necessary. It's grandmother Beatrice's annual charity event. She's making it the stage for your debut. Emma bounced into the kitchen in her school uniform. What's a gala? It sounds fancy. It's a big party with lots of dressed-up people, Rosa explained, her mind racing. Can I come? Emma asked hopefully. This one is just for adults, Princess, Jonathan said, sliding pancakes onto her plate. But I promise we'll have our own party here with your friends soon. After taking Emma to school, Rosa returned home to find Jonathan waiting in his study. You're worried, he said simply. Of course I'm worried. Jonathan, I've never been to anything like that. I don't know which fork to use or how to make small talk with billionaires. Your family is going to see right through me. Jonathan stood and walked around his desk. Rosa, in 6 months, you've learned business accounting faster than students who go to college for it. You've handled every challenge this life has thrown at you with grace. One party isn't going to defeat you. Your cousins are going to be there, the ones who want to take everything from you. They're going to try to expose me as a fraud. Let them try. Jonathan's voice was steel. You're not a fraud. You're my wife. You're Emma's mother. You've earned your place in this family. Rosa looked at him, seeing the fierce protectiveness in his eyes. When had that happened? When had she become someone he would defend so passionately? Preparing for battle, the week before the gala passed in a blur, Jonathan hired a stylist named Patricia who arrived with racks of designer gowns. Rosa tried on dress after dress, feeling more uncomfortable with each one. This isn't me, she said, looking at herself in a glittering gold gown that cost more than she used to make in a year. Then what is you? Patricia asked kindly. Rosa thought about it. Something elegant but simple. Something I can breathe in. Something that doesn't scream trying too hard. Patricia smiled. I think I know exactly what you need. The final choice was a midnight blue dress with clean lines and subtle sparkle. It was sophisticated without being flashy, expensive without being ostentatious. When Rosa put it on, she actually recognized herself in the mirror. Perfect, Jonathan said when he saw it. His eyes lingered on her in a way that made Rosa's breath catch. Carmen helped Rosa practice walking in heels and taught her a few phrases in French and Italian that might impress the international guests. Emma watched the preparations with wide eyes. You look like a princess, she said, as Rosa practiced her entrance down the stairs. I feel like I'm going to trip and fall on my face, Rosa admitted. You won't, Jonathan said, appearing at the bottom of the stairs, because I'll be right there to catch you. The night of truth, Beatrice Pierce's estate was a sprawling mansion in the Hamptons, lit up like a palace. Cars lined the circular driveway as valets rushed to park vehicles. Rosa's hands trembled as their driver pulled up to the entrance. Ready? Jonathan asked, taking her hand. No, but let's do this anyway. They walked in together, and conversation seemed to pause as people turned to look. Rosa felt dozens of eyes assessing her, judging her, wondering who this unknown woman was who had captured Jonathan Pierce. Beatrice Pierce stood at the center of the grand ballroom. A regal woman in her 70s with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. She wore diamonds that probably cost more than a house and held herself like royalty. "Jonathan, my dear boy," she said, extending her hand. Then her gaze moved to Rosa. "And you must be Rosa." "Mrs. Pierce, it's an honor to meet you," Rosa said, grateful her voice didn't shake. "Call me Beatrice." "Come, let me look at you properly." The older woman studied Rosa from head to toe. Rosa fought the urge to fidget under that penetrating gaze. "You're not what I expected," Beatrice finally said. "I'm sorry to disappoint." I didn't say I was disappointed. I said you weren't what I expected. "There's a difference." Beatrice took Rosa's arm. "Walk with me, child. Leave Jonathan to schmooze with the business partners. You and I need to talk." Jonathan squeezed Rosa's hand once before letting her go. His eyes said, "You've got this." Beatrice led Rosa to a quiet corner of the terrace overlooking the ocean. "My grandson tells me you were working as a cleaning lady when he met you." Rosa lifted her chin. "Yes, ma'am. Night shift at his office building. And you have a daughter." "Gone. Has been since before she was born." Beatrice nodded slowly. "My husband left me with 3 children when Jonathan's father was just a boy. I know what it's like to raise a family alone, to work until your bones ache." "Tell me, Rosa, why did you accept my grandson's proposal?" Rosa met the older woman's eyes directly. "For Emma, for the opportunity to give her everything I never had. But also because Jonathan is a good man who deserves better than to lose everything he built to people who don't value it." "And do you love him?" The question struck like lightning. Rosa opened her mouth, then closed it. "I don't know," she finally admitted. "I care about him deeply. I respect him, but love. That's complicated," Honesty Beatrice said with approval. "That's rare in this family. Most would have gushed about true love and destiny." She studied Rosa again. You'll do just fine." Facing the wolves back in the ballroom, Jonathan's cousins were circling like sharks. Bradley was tall and blonde with a perpetual sneer. Nathan was shorter, darker, with calculating eyes. Their wives, Veronica and Claudia, wore fake smiles and real diamonds. "Jonathan, cousin," Bradley called out loudly. "Congratulations on your marriage. We were all so surprised. Such a whirlwind romance." "Thank you, Bradley," Jonathan said evenly. "And this must be the lucky bride." Nathan looked Rosa up and down in a way that made her skin crawl. "I have to say, we were all curious about the woman who finally caught our cousin's eye." "Where did you two meet again?" "At work," Rosa said simply. "What field are you in?" Jonathan stepped closer to Rosa. Rosa was studying business administration while working nights to support her daughter. "Sound familiar, grandmother?" "That's exactly what Mother did." Beatrice, who had followed Rosa back inside, nodded. "Indeed it does. Your mother was a remarkable woman, Jonathan. It seems you found someone equally remarkable."
"Oh."
Bradley's smile faltered. "Of course, we're all just delighted for you. Though the timing is quite convenient, isn't it? Right when you needed to produce an heir. Are you suggesting something, Bradley?" Jonathan's voice dropped to a dangerous tone. "Not at all. Just observing that fate works in mysterious ways." Veronica, Bradley's wife, turned to Rosa with a patronizing smile. "You must tell us all about your family, Rosa. Are they in New York? What does your father do?" "My father died when I was 12, Rosa said calmly. "He was a construction worker. My mother raised me alone, working 3 jobs. She taught me that dignity comes from hard work, not from a trust fund." The barb hit its mark. Veronica's smile froze. Nathan looked murderous, but Beatrice laughed, a genuine sound of delight. "Well said, my dear. I think this family could use more people who understand the value of real work." A moment of truth as the evening wore on. Rosa found herself surrounded by people asking questions, making judgments, testing her. She handled each interaction with grace. Remembering what Jonathan had told her, be yourself. She talked about Emma with pride. She discussed the business courses she was taking without apology. When someone asked about her wedding, she smiled and said it was simple and perfect. Just what we wanted. Late in the evening, Rosa stepped onto the terrace for air. The ocean breeze was cool and refreshing after the stuffy ballroom. She closed her eyes, letting the tension drain from her shoulders. "You are magnificent in there." Jonathan's voice came from behind her. Rosa turned to find him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. I didn't embarrass you? Embarrass me? Rosa, you amazed me. The way you handled Bradley and Nathan, the way you won over grandmother, even the way you talked about Emma without apologizing for being a mother. You were perfect. I was just being myself, like you told me to. Jonathan stepped closer, and suddenly the air between them felt charged. Rosa, I need to tell you something. What? This started as a business arrangement, a solution to a problem. But somewhere along the way, it became real for me. You became real. What I feel for you is real. Rosa's heart hammered. Jonathan, we agreed that we wouldn't confuse gratitude with feelings, that we'd keep this professional. I'm not confused, he said, moving even closer. I know exactly what I feel. I love the way you laugh at Emma's jokes. I love how you study late into the night because you're determined to learn. I love your strength, your honesty, your courage. I love you, Rosa. Words hung in the air between them. Rosa felt tears prick her eyes. I'm scared. Of what? Of this ending? Of you realizing one day that you deserve someone better? Someone who fits into your world naturally. Jonathan cupped her face gently. You do fit. You fit perfectly. Not because you've changed yourself, but because you've changed this world, changed me. You've made my house a home. You've made me remember what matters. You've given me a family, Jonathan. Rosa's voice broke. You don't have to say anything back. I just needed you to know. Needed you to understand that whatever happens, however long this lasts, my feelings are real. Rosa looked up at him, at this man who had given her and Emma everything, who had proven himself again and again. Jonathan, I think I'm falling in love with you too, and that terrifies me. Why? Because I didn't think I'd ever trust a man again after Carlos. Because this was supposed to be simple. Because loving you makes everything so much more complicated and so much more precious. Jonathan pulled her close, and Rosa melted into his embrace. They stood there on the terrace, holding each other as the ocean whispered below, and the party continued inside. Rosa. Jonathan murmured into her hair, will you really be my wife? Not because of a contract or an agreement, but because we choose each other. Rosa pulled back to look at him. In his eyes, she saw everything she had been afraid to hope for. Genuine love. Steadfast commitment. A future built on truth rather than convenience. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will. When they kissed, it was nothing like the polite peck they had shared at their civil ceremony. This kiss was real, deep, full of promise and possibility. It was the kiss of two people who had found each other in the most unlikely circumstances and decided to build something true. Inside the ballroom, Beatrice Pierce watched them through the window and smiled. She had given Jonathan an ultimatum, forced him into an impossible situation. But somehow, miraculously, it had led him to exactly where he needed to be. Well done, my boy, she murmured to herself. Well done. A new beginning. 3 months later, Rosa stood in the garden of their home. Watching Emma splash in the pool with her new puppy, a golden retriever named Sunshine. Carmen was tending to her roses nearby, humming softly. Jonathan came up behind Rosa and wrapped his arms around her waist. Happy? Rosa leaned back against him. Happier than I ever imagined possible. I have news, he said, a smile in his voice. What kind of news? Bradley and Nathan have withdrawn their claim. Grandmother convinced them that fighting would destroy the family legacy. They've accepted generous positions in the company under my leadership. It's wonderful. Your company is safe. Our company, Jonathan corrected. You're taking business classes. Emma's talking about being a veterinarian. This empire belongs to all of us now. Rosa turned in his arms. Jonathan Pierce, when did you become so sentimental? When a brave woman with a mop and a dream showed me what really matters. Emma called out from the pool. Mommy, Papa, watch me dive. They walked hand in hand to the poolside, this unlikely family forged from necessity and transformed by love. Rosa thought about the night she had met Jonathan, how terrified and confused she had been, how impossible his proposal had seemed. But sometimes the most impossible things turn out to be exactly right. Sometimes a business arrangement becomes a love story. Sometimes a cleaning lady and a billionaire find that they're not so different after all. And sometimes, just sometimes, saying yes to the unthinkable leads to everything you never knew you needed, as the sun set over their home. Painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Rosa knew without a doubt that she had made the right choice. Not because of the money, or the mansion, or the security, though those things mattered, but because she had found something infinitely more precious. A man who saw her true worth. A family built on genuine love, and a future full of promise. The contract that brought them together was long forgotten, replaced by vows spoken from the heart. And as Jonathan pulled her close, and Emma splashed happily in the pool, Rosa Martinez Pierce knew that she was exactly where she belonged.